so much, everybody, for being here and all the filmmakers to be here and for giving us your great perspective on the state of independent filmmaking today, which, we were chatting about. We are in curious times, of course, and it's always such a triumph to get anything made and on screen, especially the unique stories that you are bringing to audiences that are craving them. So I'm very excited to hear your perspective on where is independent film today? What are the challenges that you are facing to bring projects together, whether it's funding, finding the stories, the audiences? What is the biggest hurdles that you're encountering? Do you want to start?
Hello. Hello. How are you guys doing, by the way? It's good to see this room full of beautiful people here. Appreciate you guys coming here with us. And yeah, what a loaded question, right? Like, where is film independent today? It's right here on this stage, right? I think because we are here to make and shape what film independent look like. I feel like this industry is something that even studios is constantly evolving. So we are all trying to figure out the state of technology. Like AI is something that we are all facing nowadays. So I think everybody that works with film, either studio or independent, we are all trying to understand how to keep doing with the state of the economy. I feel we can be optimistic, or I like to be optimistic, so I feel like we're on the best time for making independent projects, because we have resources that we probably wouldn't have 10 years ago. So I feel we are in a moment where we can use that resources and shape a better future that that it can fit our needs. So I think is a time that we can do a lot of stuff, but also we have the challenge. But because of that, a lot of people are doing. So then you have the challenge of breaking through the noise. So it is exciting to have the opportunity to get your ideas out of your head and make something, but also how we're going to be able to deliver to the people that want to see it, right? So it's an interesting time. Do you want to?
I agree. It is an interesting time, and it does sometimes feel like the industry is contracting a little bit, or the monopolies they're coming. But I also agree that there are opportunities, and our voices are very loud. We also have more, I think, more platforms for independent voices. And not to say that social media is the answer, but I mean, we are seeing people turning to social media, smaller platforms like Vimeo to get their voices heard and to kind of build their audiences. YouTube is also a resource. And I think more and more we're finding more creative ways to tell our stories, to raise funds to tell our stories. Personally, I tend to tell stories that are social impact inspired, so it's like genre with a social impact bend. And so the way that I find funding is by going to community partners who align with the themes in my stories to say, do you want to partner with me? I'm using this platform, film, to bring attention to a social issue that I find important. So it's about finding interesting ways to find your funding, to build community and partnerships. And I think that's one of the answers to kind of combating what feels like we're up against the big studio systems and the monopolies, like the joining of Hulu and Disney, or you know what I mean? That's a real thing, right? But there are interesting ways that we can go around what seems to be a problem. We can see it in an optimistic way. We can see it as a challenge that's worth fighting.
Yeah, something that what you said it's exactly on point. Something that I would like to add is the fact that I think our communities are getting stronger. I think that something that happened to me is that when I start doing my films, I start applying to big festivals, right? But you have no voice there. You are competing with everyone, you get lost in the noise. You don't have Q&As or things like that. But when I started applying to small festivals that were more Latinos or more in the genre that we're aiming for, just to have a focal target, that really helped in case of my projects, just to find maybe not even the big F word funding, but that is really important, but also sometimes you have to find your wolf pack, right? Like the persons that are gonna be with you. Sometimes I found a great producer just through the festivals, right? And how can you improve your skills every time and just building the team together, so you don't have to do everything. Like sometimes as filmmakers we're Swiss Army men, just doing everything. But I think that just relying on talented people is one of the answers. And what better if someone of your community or that trusts in the genre that you're working on or the stories that you're working on. So just mixing with talented people, I think, is one of the key aspects of it.
I agree with everything that they have all said. Of course, yes, there are so many challenges to being an independent filmmaker, to telling your story. I think one of the things that I personally navigate and talk to a lot of my community about is the stories that I'm trying to tell or they're trying to tell. We're often in conversation about, well, why does the story need to be told right now? Like, what is the sense of urgency? Why can someone else not tell the story? So I feel like a lot of owning that point of view of like, I'm the only person who can tell the story because of my authentic voice, and really standing on solid ground with that is something that personally motivates me as a storyteller altogether. Understanding the reason or the purpose why you are meant to do this specific thing.
Absolutely. And on that note, these are such important stories, and there are audiences out there that are craving them, that they have not seen them before. They have not seen themselves on screen before. And your work is so important. But of course, there are challenges sometimes to getting the system or some financiers, so whoever it may be, some gatekeepers, to let these stories make it to the screen. How do you feel that the uniqueness of your voice and your stories help, but also challenge that journey to the screen?
I think something that Victor just mentioned earlier kind of connects to that question, because I think once you find your community, your tribe, right? Like, you will find people that connects to the work you're doing, the story you want to tell. So I think that's like a good avenue for you to start to try to kick your project off the ground, like connecting to people, producers or financiers that are interested in doing something that you're doing, that you're like, I'm, a Latino filmmaker. So if a financier doesn't want to, deal with that, that's not going to be a good match. But there's a lot of them. There's a lot of Latinos financier that wants to see their films and the type of film that I'm doing on the screen. So it's a matter of finding people that it's going to match, the type of project that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about getting clear about what your voice is and what you have to offer, and standing in that and becoming as specific as possible, and telling the stories that only you can tell. As we're going to probably keep repeating this, like, your stories matter, your voices
Referencing
matter.
each other here.
But I mean, when the clearer you are about that, the easier it is for your tribe to find you. And so if the door remains closed, then it's not the door for you, and that's just the case, But again, it's about like finding creative ways to think about, because we're, in a way, I mean, every film, every project is a small business, right? Or sometimes a big business. You're providing jobs for people, right? So thinking about, yourself as a business owner, and thinking about your project as a resource, and that you're providing something for your community. And then, thinking about creative ways to fund it, and it's out there. It's just getting specific, and then finding those people that will support that, or the community partners that will support it. I like to recently, like Ava DuVernay's Origin is, I think, really a great example, because she knew that the traditional route of a studio system wasn't going to work for her. So what she did was she put together her funding by going to organizations like Ford Foundation and, you know, organizations that aligned with her vision for her film. And it's, I think, an amazing feat. I mean, it's a magnificent film. So we could do that on a smaller scale, of course, and then when we get to our billion-dollar film, not $1 billion, but our multi-million-dollar projects, then we can just do that on a larger scale.
Yeah, going in that route, like I would say that it's like the old saying, like people want the same but different. So something that has helped me a lot in the process is to figure out how people can relate to this, right? Sometimes your reality is really important, and take it with a pinch of salt, but we as an artist, we have to work on our voice, but also on how to make it entertaining as well, right? Like why people have to watch my film and have a good time. It can be a sad film too, but it just have to be entertaining as well. So I think that something that have worked is, for me at least, is just to have your voice, but disguised as genre, you know, or something like that, just to make it a little bit, I won't say, I hate that word, commercial, but just so people can follow the story properly, right? And once you have that, then they can understand you, right? It's like learning baby steps. Oh, now I understand your language. Now I understand what you're saying. But if they don't understand your language, they cannot even understand what you're saying. So I think I just wanted to add that, because as an artist, especially at the beginning, I was just focused on my voice, like all I have to say this to the world and everything, but I didn't have the language to show my voice. So use that.
Yeah, again, I agree with everything that's been said before me. I think this is an industry that's full of rejection, and a lot of that builds character in a way, right? Like get rejected, you apply, you put your heart into these applications, and then maybe you're met with a no. And over time, I feel that personally I have tried my best to get the no and then sit with those feelings and then bounce back to be like, that was not meant for me. I'm going to refocus and prioritize my energy in a different way. And I say that because I just wrapped up principal photography on my first feature, and a few weeks before we were, thank you all, a few weeks before we were about to film the project, some of our financing kind of fell to the floor. And so at that point, everyone had been hired. We have a schedule going out. We have cast members flying in. And, you have to, I think, in those moments, make a choice of like, am I going to serve in a place of leadership, or am I also going to function from a place of this isn't going to happen and this is going to be a disaster? And so in the end, which goes to my point of financing, I think it is a puzzle, right? I think when I was much younger, I was thinking, if I pitch a project, someone will finance this right away. It's like, it's going to drop from the sky. And the truth is, independent filmmaking is so not that. And
like, they're going to love this script, right? They love this script. And
you know what I mean? But it's never that simple. Or if it is, congrats to you. But for me, it hasn't. And I think with that, it's almost like, for me, I want to build trust with every partner, whether that's from an organization donating equipment or if that's a financial contribution. I feel like you kind of want to include people in the process, because at the end they're helping you on this journey. So people know, right? If you're like, I just need a check, they feel that. And so I think being authentic about what your request is and also how you're going to include them in the whole process of storytelling is really important.
No, those are very important points. What you said about seeing it as a business owner, this is an enterprise and a team effort, and sitting on a position of leadership when things get tough, because these are very they're puzzles, as you said. So on that note, and on that seeing it as you are the leader of the project and you also have a lot of responsibility. How do you manage the current state of things to make sure that you are staying true to your story and creating opportunities for the voices that need to be on the project, whether it is a DP, a production designer, the cast, so we can have true representation for these voices that need to be heard on these stories?
That's really interesting.
do you want to start
first.
with that? Because
Yeah.
I think you have an
So
interesting
we can go
story.
in the other
I'm
room.
going to let you take the lead that side.
I think in any capacity, when you're working on a story, especially, right, because the story lives beyond you, right? You may have the vision, you may be incubating it, but at the end of the day, it becomes a shared experience with a greater audience. And so I think when you really have that in mind, of course, you want to be inclusive. You want to, hire people that may be outside of your core circle that you've worked with a number of times before to raise levels of opportunities as well. And so for me, I guess I'll closely speak to what I just finished, but I know I worked with a couple new heads of departments, and I think from there I really allowed them to make the right choice for the film based on the fact that, who were they as people? Did they actually relate to the story? Was this more than just a job for them? Because I was hoping that, we could make discoveries together, So I think that's one component. Yeah.
How did you, because you literally just wrapped, so
Yeah, insane.
do you have like a story about how you were able to maintain sort of your original vision but while also allowing it to blossom? Did you have any challenges around?
Yeah, we had a lot. Overall, the shoot was very, very smooth. 18 days with a crew of 18 here in LA, so very lean. But of course, we wanted more money. We built a casino set in Gardena in an empty warehouse, so we really had to reimagine what that looked like. Things became more expensive than budgeted for. We had to hire background, so it just became a bigger set overall. But in that, I think I worked with my team to say, what is the point of this scene? What are our absolutes? We need this, we must have this, and then the other stuff is just okay, that'd be nice to have, right? I think sometimes you have to negotiate with yourself to be without these core pieces, I can't actually tell the emotional beats of this scene, and it's not gonna work, versus I want all the clutter and the visual effects. There's just everything that's kind of an accessory. So, but honestly, working on the feature taught me a lot because I'm usually very pre-planned. And there were some things where I was blocking with my actors and they'd be like, I don't know if I'd move like this, or I don't know if this makes sense. And I know it was written this way, but are you open to kind of reimagining this? So we were, at some moments, I was rewriting dialogue on the spot, being oh, if this doesn't make sense to you and you don't believe it or trust what you're saying, well, let's work this out right now. So there was a lot of that.
That's amazing. Very collaborative. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what you're getting at is something that I try to bring to the development, pre-production, and through every stage of production through to post is it's that metaphor of I go in and I have this color green in my head of the story that I want to tell. It's this
Right.
color green, and then. But when you bring people on, you talk to them about what they envision, and and they might have a different shade of green in mind, right? But ultimately, we're at the end of it, it's a different shade of green, but we all have it's still green, right?
Absolutely.
So it's as long as the core of the idea is still there, and you're checking in every step of the way to make sure that everybody's on the same page, or at least close to the same page, then ultimately what everybody is doing is servicing this project and servicing the idea, right? And they're putting the story first. So yeah, I think seeing our films and our projects as a collaborative enterprise every step of the way just kind of sets you up for this elevated project,
I think that's the fun of it actually in film. Even writing, I've just finished writing my second feature script, and I have an outline. I think even with ourselves, we gotta allow, because I had an outline, I was going for it, and then I was approached the second, third act. I was I gotta move things around. It's not feeling right. This thing, and then I had a debate with myself. I was just change it and go with whatever you're feeling. And I think when you go on set and things like that happen, independent filmmaking, all the things gonna go right. Film in general, even big studio, you go to set, things are not going to be exactly the way you planned it. So in independent filmmaker more so. So it's good for us to develop that skill of adaptability and be we know we're doing a green here, but how can we change the shade for us to finish the shoot today and go home and do it. And trust the people who are working with you, right? Like your partners, and be like, hey, what like hear them and be open. I think if you see the beauty, and it can be something fun at filmmaking, like when you're like, yeah, let's just go with the flow and see.
Yeah, like you were saying, filmmaking is just problem solving all the time. Like, and especially that's why I think that casting, getting the crew, what we were talking about, diversity and just representation, that it matters. I think that you need to have the highest standards when you cast and you get the crew, even if they are like the kind of person that you want it to be. Like, you have to be really specific about the skills that you're going to, because it's like a family member, right? Or like an enterprise, or like a marriage. You're going with that person till the end, right? So you better choose wisely, and it gives you, it's gonna help you, because you don't know everything. So you might discover things in the process, and it's just this thing that you have to be like water, and flow. Sometimes you have to let it go. Sometimes, like, okay, it's your vision and this is how you see it, but hey, how about if you do it this other way? So I love the analogy that you did with the different shades of green. It's still green, but you are going in different directions, and what is important is, at the end, the film. It's not you. Sometimes we have that ego that, oh, it's my film, my vision, and then you realize, like, no, it's the best film possible. Not my film, his film is our film. So that's really key.
I love what you said about making sure that if you invite the right person in at the beginning, and you're confident in their skill set, then you should be able to just like let go and allow them to, and trust them to bring what they said that they were going to bring. I mean, you invited them to be a part of this project and on the journey with you for a reason. So then just let go and don't micromanage.
Exactly, micromanage the worst.
Yeah, and on that note, you are doing so much. There's so much responsibility on your shoulders, and not just of that specific project, but also of your community, what you're representing on screen. So how do you manage all of that with finding time to do self-care, and while also moving your career forward and making all these projects? Self-care.
That's a tough question for all of us, I guess.
Self-care,
Who's
what is
gonna
that?
We're here today.
Yeah.
We're trying to, thank you, SoulCanvas.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For this day of self-care.
Yeah.
I think for me, that's something that I always, since I start, like, since I started, like, becoming a filmmaker, like writing my first screenplay as, in a young age, and seeing like, oh, this is so difficult. But it's been a challenge, like, because I also love it, right? Like, I can sit in front of the computer, and then it passed like 10 hours and I wrote like a line, but then I was like, like in another world, and I didn't. But then I'm like, I didn't even eat right. I didn't even work out, and and then like I didn't even answer my friends, and so I think filmmaking, art in general, when you, like, there's a lot of writers here on SoulCanvas, right? Like, I feel like that's we do those, we write, like, we do films because we love it, but it's so consuming and so difficult, and demands a lot of time, that sometimes we have to look and be like, hey, I need to stop, I need a break, and not confuse work with, it's not because you're enjoying and you're having like, oh, I'm writing a lot of pages, that's good. Yeah, but you need to stop, you need to answer your mom, and then, so I try to do, like, I try to write it down, like, exactly, like, like, I put on the calendar, like, when I have, like, the same way that I have, like, any type of meetings or stuff that goes on my calendar, I try to put self-care too. Like, oh, this is the gym time, or even if I'm too crazy, like, you have to have lunch at this time, or even like try to plan trips, because I'm from Brazil, so I try to, like, I need to go visit my family this year. So, like, because otherwise, like, a year passed and like, oh damn, I haven't been there for a minute, and so I really try to force and do with personal stuff, like as the same way that I do with my work. So like have the same level of responsibility that I have with my work to with my personal affairs and what makes my well-being in a better place.
Yeah.
What about you?
I go to therapy every week, so there's that. I try to, most recently, I've been trying to challenge myself to do something to get outside of my comfort zone. So for instance, I've always, for a very long time, been afraid of water, like swimming, and so I've been taking swim lessons and swimming, in part because I was like, okay, I gotta heal my relationship with water, and also I'm developing a short film right now that has a lot of water in it. So I was like, yeah. So it's a lot of trying to do spiritual things that helps me feel like I'm outside of my comfort zone, but it's still kind of related to my work, like for instance this water thing. But then I also just watch a crap ton of anime and stuff that has nothing to do with the work that my writing or my work. I just or I go to the museum or whatever. I guess ultimately maybe it will inspire something, right? Art is art, but I just do a lot of random things to veg out, and my favorite thing is anime right now. So
You got me at anime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all have to watch Farron Beyond Journeys, and please do yourselves a favor and watch that anime. It is so beautiful.
What is the name again?
Farron Beyond Journeys, and
Okay.
it's so good.
Check it out. Definitely. Regarding self-care, I'm just going to say a couple of things. The first one is working out helps a lot to me. Sometimes you might have the greatest mind ever, but if you don't have a body that can contain that mind, that can function properly, it doesn't matter how smart you are and how great you are. So I think that, and also it helps me a lot regarding, it's like meditation, right? When you work out, you're just not thinking, while you're holding weights, it's impossible that you're thinking about the third act of your story, right?
Yeah, it clears your mind, right?
Yeah, you
It
are
helps you clear your
already
mind.
in there. So in a way, you're just out of your mind for a second, and it's your body. And sometimes, especially in our career in this business, everything is really abstract. You don't know exactly what is right, what is wrong. People hate a film, the others like this film, and you don't know what is right and wrong, and all the process take forever. Sometimes a film can take 5 years to make, 4 years. So you don't see the process right away, but if at the end of the day you work out, you finish something. So you accomplish something at the end of the day and you feel good, okay, I'm in a good path, and you keep going forward. So that really helped me regarding that. It's fine if you miss a couple of days, but it's good just to improve yourself in that. And you can, if you improve artistically, but also you improve your body, your personal records and all of that, it gives you that achievement feeling, that I accomplished something. So I used to, like a video game, okay, I got a new achievement. Yeah. Cool.
Self-care. I think there needs to be a lot of self-care, to be honest. I think this business is all-consuming. I think it takes a lot of time. And for me, when I was younger, I was so terrible at making space for other things outside of my work. My work my identity was so wrapped up in what I was doing, how much I was working. And I feel like now I want more balance in my life, hopefully continuing to build my career, but not sacrificing, missing out on life events because I'm I need to be working today. I think you really do have to trust the process. Work is work, it is there, it fluctuates too, it doesn't change the value of who you are based on the amount of work you're doing. That's a constant lesson of mine. But yeah, self-care, I take a lot of time for myself to be solo, to be offline, to take hikes, to kind of get out in nature, which helps cut the digital noise of everything because I'm on my phone a lot or on my computer a lot. And I think, it's like a constant daily choice. My feature dealt with a protagonist that was a young Asian American female. And for me, I'm Asian American, and I'm sort of I do have this whole weight of people being you have to present everything correctly, and you can't make any mistakes because everything is on my shoulders. And I feel that through different conversations with mentors and such, it's like, of course you have to do the work and research what your topic is about fully. But at the same time, I have to know that I'm also human, and if I get something wrong, like I can take ownership of that. And so I think just double checking everything and making sure that I'm as well researched as I can be.
Of course, and it's one perspective.
Yeah, one
There's
perspective,
multiple,
exactly. Yeah.
I just want to add something interesting you said about like our own identity as a human being, right? I think that's something that we all as artists, as creators, have to remember that like you say, you're representing, like it's a big way, like I'm representing this community. And I think Victor and I as Latinos, or even like every community that we represent when we're doing a film, or even the film itself, like, oh, I'm this filmmaker at this festival.
Right.
But like it's good to remember that at the end of the day, we're just a human being.
Yeah.
And then see ourselves as more simplistic, normal human being, like as a good boyfriend, or as a good son, as a good brother, or a good friend for your friend, and kind of like remind yourself to stay on that realm. And then when you're going to do your work, you try to do your best work. Absolutely. And that's it. But not let that define. If you do a mistake in your work, that's a mistake at work.
Yeah.
There's a human being type of thing. I think that helps us to take have a breather.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah, because ultimately I think you have agency all the time, in the sense that, like, say you are aiming for this film festival and you're like, I really want the film to get in here, and it doesn't get in. It doesn't mean that you're like not worth anything. It just means that it wasn't right for the festival. But I think if you let something like that in that scenario define who you are, there's just no way to have a sustainable life as a filmmaker, because you're going to be up and down and up, and it's like so emotionally not possible, right? Like, yeah.
I think that, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think that goes back to making sure that you have a very solid sense of yourself and like what you're trying to do, and the story that you're trying to tell. And you're not trying to tell a story that represents all Black women or all Asian women, because that's the fastest way to get yourself into trouble, right? When you're like, your opinion of your own work starts to become dependent on the feedback that you get, right? But it's like, no, I'm just trying to tell a specific story. It is one of on the spectrum of what it means to be a Black woman or an Asian woman or Latina. So, I mean, just keeping that in mind as well, but really having a very firm sense of the work that you're trying to do, and so that when you do get those rejections, you're not emotionally up and down. It's just a part of the experience of being a filmmaker, an independent filmmaker. You're gonna hear no's, and the sooner you get used to that, the sooner you fail, the more often you fail. They say fail fast and fail often, so that you
Get back up.
So you get back up, and you just become a pro at that. Yeah. So.
Absolutely, and I love that you all touched on something that the process and the day-to-day, and the self-care is balanced with your work and that day-to-day, and how do you deal with that the process takes time, that there's rejections, that we would all like it to be faster and get to that yes very quickly, immediately, like you said, yes, I finished my script, let's go and do it right now. It takes time. So I would love to hear how with the projects that you're currently working on, how are you dealing with that process in this present moment? Are you in the development, the post-production, to give us a few different perspectives on what the spectrum of that day-to-day of the filmmaker really looks like?
She just got out of a set.
Yeah, you
so.
want to start with post? We can start with post and then work it back to development.
Yeah, so the feature film is called Surrender, and I made the proof of concept short in 2021 during the height of the pandemic, the Delta variant, and in 2022 it went through the festival circuit, and then the end of 2022 we got into Film Independence Fellowship Program for Fast Track, and so it was a finance market where we pitched the project, and at the time we were pitching the project for about 1.25 million, and that was just like not possible at the time. So actually we ended up doing this film production production's budget was about $350,000. So you can see even in that, like we just brought it all the way down, you know. Still possible though, and so now we're currently in the post-production process, looking forward to a release in 2025. So we're, you know, I'm currently navigating different meetings with sales and distribution partners, meeting with my editor to go through kind of all the footage and cull through all of that and how everything's piecing together. And meanwhile, I'm also developing another feature script. So I'm spending a lot of time juggling, looking at footage, and then trying to reimagine a whole new story that has nothing to do with what I just made, genre-wise. So, yeah.
Yeah, regarding, we're currently in pre-production of for a short film that is a proof of concept of a feature film that we wrote. When I say we, I mean me and my partner in crime, my wife, Sarah, who is right there. Cheers to her. So it's great to have a creative partner in the house because you're always discussing ideas. She edits, I do VFX, and so we do everything together, and it's great because once that we deliver the idea, it already went through our process, right? So it's not just, it already was examined a lot in the house. So that really helped to this process. I think is our best screenplay so far. And it's fine if you don't find the right people right away. Like we have switched from producers, like 3 different producers, because we saw some things. And so you have to start seeing like, oh, this might be an issue in the future, you know, because it's a long commitment, especially if you want to do first the short and then the feature. Like, it's, as I said before, it's like a marriage. So I think that's really key. And because it's world building, so it requires a lot of time. We're just focusing a lot in parts of like the concept art, like how it's gonna look, how it's gonna feel that place. So just closing your eyes and see how it will feel living in that world is something that we're working on right now. But yeah, looking good.
Yeah.
And I'm in the development, well, I'm actually in the fundraising portion. I am I'm shooting a short film. It's a grounded fantasy film that brings attention to America's maternal mortality crisis, Black maternal mortality crisis. And I'm using fantasy and the metaphor of sea turtles as a way to tell that story, and it follows a family that is dealing with this issue. I'm making it through AFI's directing workshop. Well, it's DWW Plus now. It was formerly known as the Directing Workshop for Women. Yeah, so we shoot in July, so I'm currently in that like fundraising part of the situation. So yeah, and looking for like community partners, donors, in-kind donations, those kinds of things. So yeah, if you have any resources, let me know. And actually, just so you know, April 11th through 17th is actually Black Maternal Healthcare Week. So there are going to be lots of conversation, even starting now, about this issue and bringing attention to this. So you all just like, you know, learn more about, you know, what's happening around, you know, health disparities in our community. And I want this film to be sort of a resource to help people, one, be able to recognize when there are signs, and two, be able to advocate for themselves in situations when they're talking to healthcare professionals who are supposed to be sort of experts, right? We need to be able to advocate for ourselves. So the film is, even though it's a genre piece, it's magical realism or fantasy, it really is a social impact piece that I want to use as a tool for education. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my previous project is called Doggy Bank, and is one of the is the first Brazilian comedy in English to debut in a major streaming service, which is Amazon. So I'm gonna do a major plug here if anybody wants to come check it out. It's on Amazon right now, oh, thank you. Here we go. Well, we're finalizing like the promotion and just wrapping up with journalists and one of the biggest contributors for this series to be finishing is the fund called New Narratives by New Filmmakers L.A. that help us to get the funding for the post-production and wrap it up the series. So anybody who is interested in filmmaking, and you guys definitely should check it out. New Filmmakers L.A. is a great resource for, to help you expose your films. They have not just a monthly film festival, but also resources like the New Narratives and a lot of cool programs. So that definitely is part of the history of Doggy Bank. So, and then we're just finishing right now. And currently I just finished my script for my second feature, and then we're just wrapping up and start kicking development soon, yeah.
That is all awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And so on the other, or I would say the end of the spectrum of the process of getting all these amazing stories to screen, and some of you touched on it because you're currently in that side of the process. How do you find the perfect distributor? How do you, is the right partner to get it to the right audiences and will be a good partner to you too in the process? Or, how do you find those promotion opportunities? Because we don't have sometimes as independent filmmakers, these huge P&A budgets. Yeah. How do you navigate all of that for your projects?
I think each project is different, right? And something you mentioned earlier about like finding the audience, right? Like how we're going to curate our project to the audience. I think you got to see the project you have in your hands, right? If it's a comedy, if it's a sci-fi, if it's targeted to Latinos or Asian American or black women or black folks. Like I think from there, we can start seeing like, oh, what is going to be the best distribution avenue that I can tap on to reach that type of audience, and then do like a marketing plan towards that, like see the project you have in your hand and see how you, and it's changing, and so every time that you have that you're going to release a project, you got to see the landscape of like what's going on. If it's what is the latest social media app that is popping right now? Is that still TikTok or there's something else? Like, then you use that to leverage and try to reach your audience. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. You just got to see your project, and then from there try to go after those folks that align with the project that you have.
I have the same question actually. So yeah, it's like trying to figure out what like aligns with. I like especially like shorts. That's a whole different thing. So for me, it's been mostly going like to a crap ton of film festivals, screening at a crap ton of film festivals, and now I'm sort of in discussion with platforms that create distribution or offer distribution for shorts. But since I'm like currently writing a feature, it's like this is the question that I have. So I'm actually really like gonna ask y'all.
Okay. From my experience, as I said before, I think going through festivals, like if you can get as many eyes, I think there are different ways you can do it. Like, of course, there is, when you're starting, like you just have to be your own PR agent. So you have to just promote yourself in social media. Just try to find every avenue that you can. Something that, for example, was happening a few years ago was that Amazon Prime, they allow you to upload your own content and sell it yourself and all of that. So I took advantage of that. I managed to put some, they're still there, like some short films, some even music videos that I put in there, and people come buy it. Like sometimes I get sales from Japan or things like that. And more than the amount of money, that it's not massive, is just the fact, oh, more eyes are seeing your work. That's what I think is important. I think we were talking about rejection, about how accepting rejection in this business. But one of the things that really keeps me going forward is that you might have many no's, but you just need a few yes. You know, as soon as you get one yes from a distributor, a yes from one person, like that opens a whole range of options. And for example, one short film that we did, we show it in Cleveland Film Festival, and a PR agent contact me, and they wanted to do the marketing for it and everything, and then we got distribution by Canal Plus, the French channel and everything. So it's really just putting it out there. I know it's a challenge, as you were saying, just trying to find what is the coolest social media right now and try to understand everything. But I think even if something that you get when you learn a new skill is like when you hire someone more talented than you to do it, for example, a PR manager or something like that, at least you have a notion, and you know if that person is the right person or not, because so you don't go blind and just choose the first one. Like, it's like dating, right? Like, so you have to choose the right person when you choose even your agent or manager or these kind of things. So just knowing more what is the process is gonna help you to find the perfect person for it. Yeah.
I'm thinking about my answer. I've been processing what you all have been saying. Thank you for all that insight. I think everything is built with trust, right? So I think for me, I'm personally still navigating who the right partner may be for Surrender to take this to market. I know that it's really important for me and my team to still feel that we have a sense of control because they've been with me since the early development days. So that's also been important, like who comes into this project will not, like you're not getting kicked out of this project, because sometimes that happens too in bigger conversations. And then also, I'm hoping to launch a social impact campaign with the release of this movie, mainly because the narrative themes of this film deal with addiction, domestic violence. Like, there are so many difficult and challenging topics. So I want to make sure I create like a safe space, for audience members who are going to experience the film. But I don't know exactly what the answer is. I think sometimes you have to take time to process, because I think, at least what I've experienced is that when I was pitching the project, there were some people who directly said, this is not the story for me. I don't want to be on board. And, and you just walk away saying, totally understand. But now that they know I'm in post-production, they're like, Jess, can we have a meeting? Can we talk about this? And you know what I mean? And so it's very easy to spot, like, when people are just not genuine, or they want something out of you, which they never were intending on building a genuine relationship with you anyway. So, you got to be careful with those people. But yeah.
Yeah, as you said, it's your babies and your partner's babies, so you got to take care of them. And on that note, I want to say thank you all so much for being here today and for sharing your experiences. I hope it's helpful to all of you. I know that's a very challenging but rewarding journey being an independent filmmaker. So thank you so much. And
Thank you. And thank you to New Filmmakers L.A. and SoulCanvas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.